Really good to be here today. Wow, what a fantastic set of presentations we've had. There's so many of you here as well. So it's a really, really great opportunity for us all to be, sharing this discussion. And I'm sure that we can take forward some of the points that have been coming up through the partnership. Yeah, I'm Teresa Bell. I'm the Independent Chair, Surrey Safeguarding Adults Board, and happy to have been working with you all since April. I've joined at a point which is really exciting, I think, in Surrey's work in terms of the amount of real kind of determination and commitment that there is to work in partnership. And I was thinking back to the excellent presentation this morning from our police colleagues, and the point that was made very strongly there about how important it is for us to be working in partnership and finding better ways to work together. And it's really difficult because we all work in these kind of big monolithic organisations, or at least those of us in statutory organisations do. And it can be very difficult to sort of cut across the walls of those at times. But I think there's a real determination in Surrey to try to do that. So yeah, really happy to be working with you all. I'm going to take you through a few slides. I'm not going to labour them because I think you've all taken in so much today already. But I just wanted to give you a flavour of kind of where I'm thinking and where the rest of the board conversations that I've been having are getting to in terms of where our focus might be. So very, very briefly, because most of you all know what a Safeguarding Adults Board is, multi-agency partnership, statutory functions under the Care Act. I've worked with Safeguarding Adults Board before the Care Act. I think a lot of us were of the view before 2014 that actually it would be really helpful for us to be working in a way that was much more partnership focused. So when I was the Director of Adult Social Care, it was one of the initiatives that I was really pleased to be involved in, was to be involved in setting up a Safeguarding Adults Board pre-Care Act. And I know that I wasn't alone in thinking that that was a good way to go. And a few of us popped up and then became statutory, which we were very pleased about under the Care Act. Care Act is useful, obviously. It's given us this statutory footing. And it's a really helpful piece of legislation, but it only goes so far, in that there will be a number of people involved in the partnership working, and either from voluntary, community sector or other statutory bodies who are working to other legislations too. So Care Act is helpful, but it's not the only piece of legislation that we work to and have to think about. And the other thing that I'd say about the Care Act is that although it's been a very helpful piece of legislation to come in, things have changed so much in this world since 2014. It's been, quite salutary, really, to look back. And a lot of the issues that we currently work with in terms of modern slavery, in terms of people who are seeking asylum, in terms of tackling exploitation. All of those issues were present before, but perhaps not in the volume that we're seeing now. And the Care Act only goes so far in addressing some of those issues. So it's just something to be aware of, that although it's important, the world's moved on and we need to find other ways to address the issues that we're interested in terms of safeguarding. I think we can probably go on to the next slide, because I think all of you will know the Care Act duties. So if we can go on to the next one, Karen, that would be great. Thank you. So we've got 4 strategic priorities in Surrey Safeguarding Adults Board, and some of you will have been involved in setting these priorities before I joined. And they are absolutely the right strategic priorities as far as I'm concerned. I didn't want to do anything about them, but maybe I think what's been happening is that we've been having conversations about what specifically do we want to do? What are the priorities within each of those strategic ways forward that we really want to accelerate and work with? So prevention and awareness, communication and engagement, quality and improvement, reflection and learning. And we've been trying to sort of really hone in on those areas that we really want to progress and make a difference in across Surrey and in partnership. So moving on. Partnership is essential to safeguarding, and I think Andy said this morning in the police presentation, that no one agency can create an effective safeguarding system by itself. So however hard we may work within our different and respective organisations, actually the most effective response can only be achieved if we work together, because we can't expect people to fit within the very complex confines of the systems that exist. We've probably all experienced ourselves, either for ourselves or our family, the nightmare of trying to get a response that entails us trekking around more than one agency and perhaps being bounced around. I'm sure we've all had that experience, and it is the experience of very many people that we'd be working with in terms of our health social care system now. So the more that we can find ways to join up at strategic level, the better, as far as I'm concerned. And as I said, what's really exciting about Surrey at the moment is that, you know, I've come into that mood really of people saying, yeah, we really, really do need to start cutting across more, so that we can make local arrangements that have the person at the centre. Okay, on to the next slide, I think. Thank you. So this is probably my favourite slide, and those of you that have heard me ramble on before will have seen this slide. And it's something about how we really hone in on what's important in safeguarding so that we don't lose focus. It's really, really easy to, isn't it? In the complexity of our organisations, in the complexity of our bureaucracies and all of the other processes that we need to follow, that it's really easy to kind of lose track of the person at the heart of the work. Professor Eileen Munro is a very esteemed safeguarding professional who's done a lot of work, particularly in children's safeguarding, but it equally applies here. And what I'm really keen on doing, and I'm not alone in this, everyone I talk to feels the same way. How do we make that cultural shift towards doing the right thing rather than just doing things right? And that doing things right doesn't mean that I'm asking you all to sort of, you know, be complete mavericks and not follow the Care Act and not follow protocol, but just to think about what makes sense here in terms of this person and focusing on the heart of the work. And quite often that will lead us to the need to work more in partnership. So I think it's, you know, how do we do the right thing by this person rather than getting caught up in a bureaucratic process that just kind of takes us further and further away from the incident or the person at the centre of it. It's a hard thing to do, and it requires, as Alison was saying before, really, it's not just about individual change here. This is a systemic change, but it's also a cultural shift. So I think, you know, what I'm getting a sense of is the cultural shift is happening. And we're needing to find ways to make our processes and practice work with that and keep up with that for us. So it's you know, exciting times. Let's move on. Next one. So very keen on being clear about our shared vision and values and principles, because I think we all work, as I say, to perhaps different professional requirements. We will all have different professional bodies that we're accountable to, different organisations. But what we can share is a set of values, principles, and a vision. And then we can look at how we interpret that within the work that we're doing. So I'm really keen on encouraging the kinds of positive relationships that have been talked about all day amongst partners, based on that trust, respect for one another, and an understanding that about each other's work and about each other's organisations, so that we're clear that yes, we've got responsibilities, but there are also some limitations. And so how can we bridge those gaps? How can we foster an environment where we can trust each other to share responsibility for the work that we're doing, and find good, collaborative, creative ways to work with one another? And to ensure that the safety and the well-being of individuals that we are working for remains central to everything that we do. So let's try not to get too caught up in organisational politics and changes, and just keep coming back to, and how can we make this work for us in a way that keeps the individuals at the centre of what we're doing. And I'm not saying this in any way as a criticism of what's going on in Surrey, because I think everyone wants this to happen. So I think, it's happening more and more, and I think we just need to support each other in keep pushing on with that, really. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about vision, values, and principles. So next slide. Okay, so this is the values. I'm not going to read each of them out, and you'll obviously get a copy of these slides. And they're statements that I'll be reiterating in other documents and presentations anyway. So being accountable, obviously, really important in terms of how we will work with one another. And I really like this next one, being bold. Let's have the curiosity to understand the problem and the courage and integrity to do all we can to achieve the best solution. So let's just think boldly about what we can do. Caring, and that's empathizing with the people that we're working with, but also our colleagues. So just being kind and empathic, in that we are all doing this because we want to do a good job. And it's very easy to get irritated by another organisation's particular restrictions on what they can or can't do. But I mean, we all want to do the best, and I think the more that we can just respect each other and understand each other's positions, that will be helpful. And dynamic. Will motivate each other to be innovative and creative. And what I have to commend everyone on who works in this field is just the ability that people have to keep motivated under what is, huge pressures on people's everyday jobs at the moment. So I really recognise the pressures that are on everyone, and I'm hugely admiring and grateful for all of the great work that you do and the way that you just keep doing it. So dynamic is, yeah, absolutely what I see, and we need to support each other to stay resilient, I think, so that we can be dynamic. So that caring bit is really important there. Then on to the next slide, please. And again, not going to read all of this out, but I'm just going to pick out a couple of things there from flexible, safe, inclusive, and collaborative. And I'm going to go, where shall I go? I think the inclusive bit is really important, and have been really pleased to come into Surrey at a point where we've got our partnerships officer, Karen, who's working with us now to really extend our reach and understand how we can extend our reach as a partnership. So you know, it's great to be in the partnership board at this point with that happening. And in a collaborative way, I'm really, really committed to co-production. It's a way that I choose to work if I can. So the more that we can extend our reach and incorporate the perspectives of people with lived experience, the better. So that is something else that we'll be pushing on within the partnership. And then on to the next slide. This is, yeah, so this is just about how we keep making sure that we're doing what we need to be doing. So it's just a little slide that I use to remind me really of what assurance means to me. So again, not going to read all of that out, but you can see that you've got that circle there of, do we listen to the views of local people? How do we know we're making a difference? And then, you know, right round to where we are today probably, and that's focusing on, do we have a skilled, informed and confident workforce? Because that is all important, that we care about the people that are working within our organisations, and that we give them the skills and confidence to work in safeguarding in a way that that they can do so feeling trusted and feeling respected. Okay, I think that takes us to the final slide. It does, thank you. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening, and happy to take any questions or comments from anyone before I go on to conclude our session.
If anybody's got any questions for Teresa, do you just want to pop them in the Q&A bar?
And if not, just to say, do feel free to contact me via the board at any point. If anything that I've said just now resonates with you, or you want to come back and comment or ask any questions about it, be really keen to hear from you. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for letting me have that time just to talk about the work of the board.